questions can unlock your inner creativity. And most people that I'm not creative, and they don't think of themselves as creative. Yet when we challenge them with the right types of questions, we can unlock almost what feels like endless creativity.
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Rob from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Ricky from Thinking Focus. And today, the question is, what makes the questions we ask so important?
Before we start, I guess we should just let you know that this is a mini-series aimed at managers, leaders and coaches who are looking to help their people grow. The series focuses on how questions are one of the most important assets at our disposal. So in this first episode of our 4-part series, we explore what makes the questions we ask so important.
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, why use questions in the first place? I mean, what other options do we have? I think that's a starting point. Is questions the only thing at our disposal? Why would we choose them?
Well, we could make statements, but they kind of don't invoke any response. It doesn't invoke any reaction, does it?
No.
Whereas, we're so passionate about not just questions, but the quality of questions and the types of questions, which of course we're going to go on to explore throughout this series. But, the questions for me, it's going to help you to zone in, get that laser focus on what you really care about, what's really important.
Yeah.
We know that questions can unlock your inner creativity, and most people that I'm not creative, and they don't think of themselves as creative. Yet when we challenge them with the right types of questions, we can unlock almost what feels like endless creativity. And of course, solving problems. How do we focus in on what's really the problem? And guess what? The 5 why technique is built on 5 why type questions, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely. So, and I think that's a really interesting and critical point to start off with, because you made reference to statements there. And for me, the dynamic of why a question is so important is because a question actually causes you to think. And the better the question causes better thinking. So, you referenced about unlocking inner creativity, solving problems, opening up new opportunities. The critical element to all of that is if you can actually design a question in such a way, your brain, your subconscious brain, I guess I should qualify, can't help but actually respond to that question. It's like a poking a bear with a sharp stick. The sharp stick is the question, and it causes a reaction in the subconscious to go, oh, great question. I wonder what the answer to that is. And that's where the power of a question is.
And we know that's working, don't we? When you wake up in the middle of the night because you've been thinking about something, and the answer will emerge. The answer will appear out of nowhere because one of the things your brain's not good at is that filing system. It doesn't instantly access the information you need when you need it. It's probably there.
Right.
It takes some time to go looking. And of course, what happens when you sleep, all of a sudden the noise stops, and therefore it can start to process without interference. It's almost like a computer where you're asking it to do 50 tasks all at once. It inevitably can't do them all effectively at the same time. But if you quieten it down a bit, all of a sudden it creates the space for the answers in our question example to come through, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the question, and I guess this is an unscientific description. The power of the question, or the design of a question, why is it so important, is because it is creating a mechanism in the filing system of your brain to go looking for that answer. And to your nice description there, that could be quite busy at times. And, we have to sort of enable our own thinking, the time, the space, the quietness to be able to come up with a good answer. But one sort of like way of short-circuiting that or circumventing that is if you ask a really great question, your subconscious just latches onto, oh, I wonder what the answer, and goes looking for that answer. Now, it might not find it instantly, but it nonetheless, it will still try to go looking for it, because, I like to imagine it as a filing system in your brain, and it's just the question is enabling you to get to that right file, open the file, look for the answer, and come up with the answer. So, come back to a couple of things that you said before about solving problems, allowing people to get unstuck just because, they're attempting to get an answer to a question that's been asked.
There are lots of types of questions, aren't there?
Absolutely. So you've got classics, haven't you? Open questions, closed questions. What's the difference between those two?
Well, one's designed to open up the response,
right,
and look for maybe some exploration, whereas actually a closed question is looking for a definitive answer to close, as it says, close it down, get to a particular point, get to a particular outcome.
So closed question we typically recognize as something that will either give you a fact or a figure, or a yes or a no. You're asking a question that somebody can only respond with those sort of binary type of responses. Whereas an open question, and I think probably what sometimes confuses people is that open questions have very many variations. So you can ask a probing question, you can ask, leading questions, you can ask rhetorical questions, theoretical questions, which are all sort of designed to enable people to think. But actually, the language in an open question is all important, because we need to start with a what, or we need to start with a how, or sometimes even start with a who or a why, to enable people to sort of go, okay, there are various different things that I need to go looking for here. And the language that we then follow the what, the what, the how, the why with, is all important, whether we close people down or whether we open people up.
So in this particular series, we're going to focus on 3 types of questions. We're going to focus on gaining clarity, because for us, if you're not clear, then you're leaving your outcome to chance.
Okay.
We're going to focus on being more creative, because having more options, having more possibilities is not going to disadvantage you. So, but we're also saying that you don't need to take hours on end to do this. This can be short, sharp activities designed to open up your creative brain, the creative side of your brain.
Yeah.
But of course, it's all right having lots of ideas. At some point, you've got to kind of hone down, prioritize, make some choices and decisions about which ideas, options, possibilities you actually want to move forward with. Yeah. So we're going to look at clarity questions, creative questions, and we're going to look at critical thinking questions as we go through the series.
Yeah. And I guess the thing just to sort of finish off with there is that in each of those, we need to watch out for, think about the language in those questions, in the design of those questions, because there are slightly different purposes that you've just described there. And also tone of voice is quite important with this as well, because you and I have both got some experience of people asking what they think is a great question with a good intent, but actually asked in the wrong tone or in the wrong situation or in the wrong environment, in the wrong way, if you like, can have the opposite effect. We think we're seeking information or helping somebody to give us information, but actually what we've just done is just cut them off at the knees. We've closed them down because of the way that we've asked the question. So language and tone are things to look out for, and they apply for all 3 of those categories that you've just described.
I think that's a really, really important point, because we know not just the tone we ask of others, it's also the tone that we ask ourselves.
Sure.
So that we can almost determine the outcome of a particular question by the way in which we frame it in our heads.
Yeah.
So we can destroy creativity, we can avoid getting to clarity, and we certainly don't take ownership in terms of the choices in the critical thinking that we do.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time with coaches, and they managers, leaders that effectively coach. We see them get caught up in the type of question. They get so focused on the question. And as we will always tell them, that says it doesn't matter, because if the question's not right, you get a free hit. You get to ask another question. And the response of your coachee will give you a sense of whether the question has worked or not. And you get the chance to ask another one, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's, and it's probably for another podcast, but it sort of, the relevance of that description causes me to think that, sometimes we ask a question attempting to get a particular result, but because we haven't thought about the criticality, if you like, of the design of that question, we don't get the result that we're after. And it's a very easy trap to fall into.
Absolutely. So I think we're kind of done for this particular podcast. Next time, we're going to focus on how you can create questions to achieve laser-like clarity.
Next time on The Question Is.
We spend a lot of time with organizations all over the world. And one of the most challenging areas for them is this getting specific piece. What does that mean? Even to the point of the date.
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organization, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.